Ferris Sports Update. I'm your host, Rob Bentley, and thanks for tuning in. On today's show, we'll recap what was a perfect weekend for the Ferris State Bulldogs as we check in with Bulldog hockey along with men's and women's basketball. All three teams combining to go 6-0 this past weekend. We'll start first, though, with women's basketball. I'm joined by the head coach, Kurt Westendorp. Coach, welcome to the show.
Glad to be back.
Obviously, a great weekend for your team. Not only did you win 2 games, but you beat the number 1 team in the country here for the second time this season.
Yeah, I've had a little bit of time to kind of reflect and think back on that, and it's just such a great accomplishment for our team, for our program, for our players. You know, we talked a lot about this season we want to really live in the moment, and having 2 of those opportunities and then to get it done in both of those, like, it's really a special thing.
Obviously, you were here back as an assistant coach more than a decade ago, and some lean years. Maybe after that, maybe talk about how this program has kind of grown here in the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, the program's just started with Coach Kendra Faustin being able to bring in some of these players that are still like the upperclassmen and seniors right now. She really set that tone and was able to kind of build the program up so that when I arrived, there was a lot of really good people in the program. They were getting used to winning a little bit more. And then the 4 years, you know, since I've been here, we've kind of made winning a little bit more of a habit. You know, I think we were really establishing the style of play that we want. The players really know what I want as a coach. And this year is kind of the culmination of kind of all of that growth as kind of the best team. You know, I'm obviously a biased observer sitting right here, but I think it's probably the best team that this program has ever had, at least in my memory. I know Coach Doro probably had some really good teams in the past, but this team definitely has the most talent, the most camaraderie, you know, and they're the most driven team that I've ever had a chance to coach.
Some of the highlights from this past weekend. You started the weekend against Davenport, another West Michigan rival here that's really trying to build their program here in the GLIAC.
Yeah, they've played a lot of close games. You know, their record doesn't really reflect some of the competition that they've played. So we knew that we were going to have to make sure that we were on our P's and Q's defensively. You know, that they're a team that has a couple different matchups that are tough for us to guard on the pick and pop of the 3, and as well as inside. They got a real good post player. So we did a great job, I thought, defensively of forcing a few more turnovers in this game than we've forced, you know, in a lot of games this year. I think we forced 27 turnovers, which really led to a lot of our offense. You know, it was a really high-powered offensive game for us, getting to 92 points. But a lot of that was started on the defensive end. We're able to kind of get steals, get deflections, kind of play in the open floor, move the basketball, and it was definitely the Caden Blanchard show in the first half. You can see her right here. She just did an awesome job of finding the openings. Her teammates passed the ball really well. She got that hot hand, and then we kept finding that hot hand. She really gets clicking. You know, she's somebody that you want to just keep feeding the ball to. Like we said, when she's hot, the ball needs to find her. And she's coming off of an ACL injury for last year. She had a couple big scoring games early in the year, but she's still trying to find her rhythm. You know, so this was excellent for her, especially in the game before the Grand Valley game, to see that ball go through the basket. You know, we're able to come out here to start the second half, run another set for her after having 21 points in the first half. We're like, yeah, it's pretty obvious where we want to go with the ball. Go right back to Caden, and she drilled the 3 to start the second half. So getting her in a little bit of that rhythm, a little more of that comfort level, you know, it makes us as a team really dangerous when we have as many players as we do that can score big. And if Caden is really going, she has that versatility to do it inside and outside. And we're really able to play with some of these matchups. You can see her here getting down inside. I don't know if I quite agreed with that call, but she did a great job of getting herself to the basket while playing from the outside. You can see right here shooting the 3. So it really makes it tough for teams to decide how they want to defend her. So we're able to kind of manipulate that and just kind of play around her when she's going that hot. The ball moved really well in that second half, and we were able to really shoot a super high percentage. And like you said, we were able to kind of go a little bit deeper into the bench in that fourth quarter, you know, and get some high quality opportunities for a lot of our players that are working their butts off in practice. You know, they're really making us a lot better, and we do have a deep team. You know, I know on Saturday's game, I think we only went 9 deep, but you know, there's going to be stretches where we can go all 12 and 13 when the time calls for it. And having those opportunities, like at the end of this game, it really kind of helps us keep getting our feet keep getting that good rhythm, like we did also against Lake State in another home game just a week before.
As we go to the highlights of Saturday's game, after the big win over Davenport, took on Grand Valley State, the number 1 team in the nation. Obviously a big game in itself, but them being number 1, how much did that mean even more, I guess, in that game?
Well, you always want to beat your rival no matter what. So it doesn't really matter what their record is, our record is. It's just kind of added on a different layer. You know, it's for the battle for potentially being first place in the conference, that adds another level. You know, number 1 team in the country, that adds another level. You know, at our home gym, that adds another level. So it was already going to be a big game no matter what, but it does make it a little bit more special when they do have that number 1 attached to their name, and they've earned that ranking. They're definitely a super talented team that's amazing on the defensive end of the court.
It's one of those games Really on both sides where there were a lot of veteran players that have really played a lot of basketball.
Yeah, I think everybody on the Grand Valley lineup, save for one of their freshman post players got a few minutes, but most of the players that are on the scouting report, you can kind of check back, into what they did against us last year, kind of how they play. We know them really well. They know us really well. With all those veteran people out there, it's truly, where the coaches can do all the preparing in the world, but you got to get out there on the court, and the players are the ones that are going to decide these games. So I felt like our kids, they knew exactly what we expected of them. They knew what their opponent was going to do, and it was truly one of those games where they could just lock in to that moment. You saw Mallory McCartney really lock into that moment. You saw Chloe, you saw Caden. I mentioned those three at the top here because they were kind of the biggest scorers for us. But I felt like everyone was focused in on what we needed to do to get the win and not just hope that we were going to win.
Obviously got contributions from other people as well. Deshauna Day, a couple nice takes to the basket. Amaka Unabagwa with some big defensive plays for you.
Yeah, Shauna did a great job of taking what they gave her, playing really within herself, jabbing, getting the defense to move, and then she's such an explosive athlete that she can get herself downhill. She's shooting the ball so much better, since the calendar year turned. So she gives us that different element of someone that can really get downhill. And then, like you said, Amaka stepping in defensively, what Grand Valley does really well is they're a great high-low team, with their post players, and we really took them out of it in the second half because Amaka could front the post and they couldn't pass it over her. Like, she can jump up and touch the rim, so those passes weren't getting through, and they had to kind of adjust and play a little bit different style. Once we built the big lead on them, they had to change their styles, and a lot of that was because of defensive effort that really all our players gave, but Amaka, we can really single her out because she did a great job of it.
We mentioned Kaden Blanchard, the GLIAC Offensive Player of the Week, Mallory McCartney, the GLIAC Defensive Player of the Week, and nice to see some players get some recognition after a big weekend.
It's nice to have some of those accolades. The win is the number one, so we're obviously, you win a lot of games. Usually they follow with awards. So, and Kaden definitely deserved that Offensive Player of the Week, and then Mallory is such an opportunistic defender. I think she had 7-8 steals on the weekend, and she's just one of those players that doesn't look like the most athletic that's going to just beat you with her speed, but her IQ and her smarts on the defensive end. She knows where to be. She can get her hands on the basketball, and she's just a really savvy player on both ends of the court, and with huge reasons why we're able to win a lot of these big games.
Finally here, obviously, this week on the road at Wayne State Thursday night, Saginaw Valley on Saturday, and now time to take that momentum, that energy, and kind of carry it onto the road.
Yeah, definitely. Feel like we've been road warriors for this first half of the GLIAC schedule. So these two games kind of ends that first round, and then of that first round, we've played 6 of our 9 conference games on the road. So we know that we got to be ready on the defensive end. We always say defense will travel, rebounding will travel. Sometimes you're not always going to shoot the ball the greatest on the road, but as long as we're playing really good defense and we're rebounding the basketball, those are the things that we're going to need to be really on top of for this weekend. Wayne State can really score the basketball. Saginaw gives you a couple different looks defensively with their press, and they're just really solid at not giving up a lot of easy baskets. So it'll be a good challenge for us, and definitely we got to carry the momentum, not be looking behind us, but just kind of staying in that moment and focusing on that current game.
Well, Coach, congrats again on the 2 wins, 12-2 overall, and best of luck here as you hit the road this week.
Thank you, Rob.
We'll be back with more Ferris Sports Update right after this.